So before I go over the anime that arrived today, let's very quickly talk about the non-anime things. Basically, I was looking for something specific at Target. Didn't find it, but I decided I needed to finally pick up a copy of Firefly. Of course, you get Serenity with that. I picked up the X-Men stuff before, and I heard this one was okay, so I picked that up. And then I picked up this 100 movie 24 disc set horror classics thing. It doesn't have things like Dracula and Frankenstein on it, but definitely has well-known such as Houses on Haunted Hill, the title I bought last week, The Last Man on Earth, and, you know, I've seen a couple of these, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Nosferatu, Metropolis, and then a bunch of other stuff that I don't know a whole lot about, but I kind of bought this set in the hopes that one day I would explore it. I guess, mentioning the set itself, it appears to be two separately released things that, you know, they each have their own UPC codes. Yeah, whatever. So, anime. That's what we're really here for, right? I spent an entire minute just talking about those. I don't know. So, admittedly, there's not a whole lot in here. And this also arrived earlier today. I took it out of the box. But let's see. We've got Naruto Shippuden Set 13. We'll try not to comment on those. Try not to think about them too much. As usual, the insides of the Naruto case aren't that spectacular, but this here is Fate Stay Night Collection 1 on Blu-ray. Since I already have it on DVD, the Blu-ray version is obviously something for me to purchase as well. I don't know what other new content it might have, but, well, a lot of people have been asking why I buy both the DVD and Blu-ray versions. I mean, that's because, geez, none of these discs are well seated, were they? Huh. And that's just because, my primary collection is the DVD collection. The Blu-ray collection is also important to me because once I'm complete with the DVDs, then I will need the Blu-rays. And at the same time, the Blu-rays kind of give me the option of the potentially best quality video option if I want to go that route. And then the other thing that arrived today was Baka and Test, Summon the Beast, Season 2. Now the reason this one wasn't in a box was because a coworker could use the box. He's been selling stuff he doesn't need anymore recently, so he could use free boxes. So, no offense intended to y'all who may or may not appreciate the unboxing aspect of this, but a favor's a favor. And I don't know whether or not I'm looking forward to watching this. I think I remember being a little put off by the first season, but not enough to not want to watch it, so I'm a bit curious to see how it continues. This is both a DVD and Blu-ray release, so this is a Funimation release, right? Yeah, it's Funimation there. Here's an extras disc. It is a DVD. I was just realizing that they don't have one of those cards that every Funimation release seems to come with. That is nowhere near everything I've got. I also imported a Blu-ray from Japan called a Library Ward: The Wings of Revolution, before I realized that this is also a movie sequel to a series, so I guess I need to watch that. I have confirmed that it has English subtitles. First things first, we do have a bit of a book here whose language I do not understand. And then we've got an insert, some stuff. And we've got the Blu-ray, the DVD version, and the DVD special disc. Unfortunately, the DVD version does not have English subtitles, but the Blu-ray version does. Now the only problem is I have to figure out what to do about a series I've not watched. I'm not sure if this will be something that I will try and download. And then, I guess I wasn't expecting this much to arrive, so I did pad the release a bit with some stuff. So, we've got an anime called Judge, Ichi the Killer Episode 0, and Jewel BEM Hunter Lime. Some very curious ones. Oh, Naruto, you little bastard. Okay, and then the last thing is, I'm not sure if this is actually anime, but it shows up in the databases, and it sounds like, while there is a kind of Chinese focus, like maybe Japan was somehow responsible for its creation, but I got the 7 volumes of The Legend of Condor Hero. Basically, I'm just catching up on my list of things. So I guess you could say it's a bit of a what's the right word? Kind of not completely researched one. Legend of the Condor Hero. I'm not sure at the moment whether or not that counts as anime or not, and Library War Wings of Revolution, I needed to watch the series before I can watch that. So, oh well, there we go. This week's anime update. And it's been a while since it's been nice and sizable like this. Something about it, the week feels weird. Like, I tried to watch a lot of stuff and ended up not watching a whole lot. For starters, I guess last week I mentioned that I was rewatching Brigadoon, and I got to finish again, and I really did enjoy rewatching all of it. I think I didn't talk about finishing it last week. And I've been working on a project so that I can watch individual episodes, movies, OVAs, whatever, for my DVDs while I'm away from home, and part of doing that is why I didn't watch a whole lot last week. And it is making it harder to focus on watching stuff this week because I'm doing complicated things with the project. I'm not trying to make a simple solution. I'm trying to make a simple usage, I don't know. I can't think how to describe that. But basically, I don't want the back-end stuff to necessarily be simple so much as I want the end result to be that my ability to use it is simple. My ability to tell it, oh yeah, this DVD has these episodes, you want to use these audio and subtitle tracks, it has these trailers, here's the opening and the ending. You know, I want to give that information in as simple a way as I can, and I also want to, from a distance, say, oh yeah, you got the data on encoding this episode, please encode it and let's just start watching it. That way I don't have to encode every single episode of Digimon Season 1 in advance and watch it. Digimon's kind of been the personal pet/test project where the idea is that seems like a pretty safe thing to watch at work over my lunch break because there's not going to really be a whole lot of objectionable content in it. And I haven't been doing that the past couple of weeks because I've been more or less working on this project through the lunch. So all that aside, I've gotten to a point where I have started watching new stuff this week, fortunately. Some new stuff. And let's see. First off, I watched Blood Sea, which I was curious about. First of all, I watched it because there was a Blu-ray version. There wasn't any chance I was going to be needing to rip the Blu-ray version or anything like that, because I just don't have the disk space to digitally store my Blu-rays for access, so I'm only storing the important Blu-rays. But I'm still trying to keep all the DVDs on there. And Blood Sea in particular, you know, there's a Blu-ray version of that, and at the same time, there's a curiosity as to why it's rated the way it is. It's not really that high, it's kind of low. And to be honest, while watching it, I wasn't really quite sure until the series started coming to a close, and I could put together a lot of why it is. And I think I can do it in a way that doesn't spoil things too much. I had multiple ideas. Earlier on, I had the idea that it might have lost some points through audience alienation, I guess. People who might have been fan of, well, I guess I haven't seen the Blood movie, but I have seen Blood Plus. And a part of me couldn't help but wonder if perhaps the audience that would have normally liked those would have felt put off by the way Blood C was presenting itself and going. So that's a place where it probably could have lost some points. At the same time, the kind of people who would have been interested in the stuff Blood C was doing might not have thought to look at it. But as it came closer to the end, it kind of started dipping into a rather gratuitous violence. To the point where it's really hard to tell if that was a good or bad thing. I could see that really discomforting people. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, the only criticism I would have in that regard is that it maybe took it a little too far. Where there were certain parts of it where I was thinking, holy shit, that person is going to have serious PTSD. Oh no, now they're dead. So, you kind of wonder what it would be like to be in that situation, and then it just keeps getting kind of more absurdly violent. So it might have overdone it a bit. Actually, it definitely overdid it the closer to the end it got, I thought. To the point where it started losing some of its surprise, and then its strangeness started to really reveal itself, I guess. But the real kicker was actually that the ending was not a very satisfying ending. It was not sort of thing where you felt like anything was really concluded, other than the fact that kind of the place where the series was ended. To a certain extent, I think this idea I've seen covered in a couple of other anime. Usually in either small story arcs or one episode or whatnot. So the entire series exploration of the concept I'm vaguely thinking about, that was actually neat. But apparently it's pretty much admitting that it can't be the only thing the story's about. It needs to provide additional sustenance of some sort. Either that, or they were trying to build up either another franchise or a new franchise or something. And maybe they didn't succeed. Well, overall, I wouldn't call it a wasteful watch at all. It was just not satisfying. It didn't particularly upset me. It just made me roll my eyes at parts, and because of how over the top it was going and all that stuff. So I can understand its low rating. So I've not played Mass Effect, but it also kind of reminds me of Mass Effect 3, where a lot of people actually enjoyed Mass Effect 3 until the very ending kind of just took everything that it was about and just made it kind of irrelevant. That's my understanding of the main problem with the Mass Effect 3 ending. And Bloodsea's kind of similar, I think, where otherwise, if they hadn't done such a horrible job, and they might have been unable to do a good job in the case of this series, unlike with Mass Effect 3, I guess, then maybe it would actually score pretty decently. Hard to say. So let's see, for everything else, just a little bit here and there. I don't even remember what I was doing with my extra time, but I watched Irregular Hunter X Day of Sigma, which is an OVA. I think maybe, I don't know where it comes from. I almost get the impression it was made for a PSP game maybe, but I'm not entirely sure. In a nutshell, it is related to Mega Man X. It is a Mega Man X OVA that takes place prior to the first game, I guess. And I don't want to go into too much detail about what it's about, mostly because if it seems to me that it was okay, but it probably would have been better if I didn't know where it was going to go in the end, because it kind of portrayed that direction in a way that somebody unfamiliar with the series, or rather with the Mega Man X storyline, that might actually be a really interesting and neat reveal. So in that regard, there's a part of me wondering if there's a good way to introduce people to the concept of playing Mega Man X by having them watch this first without explaining what it's about too much. Don't know. I can't think of anybody I would be able to experiment on that with. Let's see. I did mention earlier that I finally watched more Digimon. In this case, only 3 more episodes. It's just today and yesterday that I've been able to do this, because that's when I got everything set up. And I had speculated a couple weeks back that Digimon got off to a rough start, and that if there was anything trying to keep me kind of curious about the going-ons, it was this hint in the 4th episode of what could be an overall storyline, and these past 3 episodes demonstrated that, and I felt the series finally started getting more interesting, more relevant. It feels like it's exploring slightly more interesting concepts than previously. But it's only 3 episodes of a 54-ish episode series, so I've got a long way to go before I'm probably going to have too much more to comment about. Character names still go over my head quite a bit. Maybe I'll pick them up. Don't know. We'll have to see. But the good news is that I am planning. I have reached a point where I should be able to watch them as I want over lunch at work, and so I should be able to make decent progress. And along those lines, I might be able to make progress on Pokemon and also Yu-Gi-Oh! In the same way. So I should be able to cover some stuff that should be safe to watch from work, I think. That I've been meaning to watch, these long-running shonen of this genre, I guess. So, last but not least, I watched Toriko. I think I watched the first 5 episodes. It sounds like there's an episode 1 that's kind of a crossover episode according to NADB, so there's a little confusion about how much I've watched, but I believe it was 5 episodes based on the names of the episodes that I'm pretty sure I watched. And I have to say, it's a pretty amusing anime. One thing that probably made it extra amusing is I watched those 5 episodes last night, and I watched them at the same time I was preparing to use my slow cooker for the first time to cook anything, really. In this case, it was stew, but it was like watching this anime about these people experimenting with food, cooking, and taste felt really inspirational, since I was kind of doing the same thing last night. So it was overall well-timed, and for the contents of it, I thought it was entertaining. There may be something revealing an overall story kind of showing up, but I don't know how much I care. I almost get the impression that there's some sort of relation between this and One Piece, insofar as One Piece has some sort of crossover with this anime. And like that might even be the very beginning of it, so I don't know what to make of that, but I do know that while it may potentially be off to a better start than One Piece at this moment, a lot of that may be that it looks like it'd be something that'd be fun to watch I don't know. I don't know how many episodes I would think would be appropriate. Because there's another part of me that thinks that it's very reminiscent of Yakitate Japan. Something I really wish would come out on DVD here. Well, that and the Cheeky Angel. I don't know. There's a couple of other things. But it was fun. I'm looking forward to watching more, though. Other than that... Well, I guess I can't think of anything else I've watched. And next week is February. I guess one thing that was coming out around nowish is the first Code Geass Akito the Exiled movie. That has shipped. It's supposed to arrive on Thursday. You know, now I think about it, I cannot log out or cannot finish the video until I show that. Yeah, I got myself in one of those awesome Ultimate Madoka figures. Quite spectacular. I would have done an unboxing video, but I had guests over at the time and I wasn't going to hold off on assembling it. Oh, look, it comes with non version. But yeah, it's quite a spectacular figurine. Probably the new crown of my collection. So, there we go. I think that covers about everything. And some ideas for next week, and I don't remember what's coming out next month, so I'm glad I will be surprised. As for y'all, y'all have a nice week.